Well, first of all, I'd like to thank the organizers for the opportunity to talk about language and linguistic justice today, which are a very important part of human rights, since language is indeed a crucial element of everyday life of all individuals. What I would like to do today is just to give a brief introduction on what linguistic rights are, and then focusing more specifically on the open questions and the current challenges of this particular topic. As you will see, all the questions go around who are the subjects of linguistic justice and linguistic rights, who are entitled to them. So, going into detail, in the legal tradition, language is mainly considered a characteristic of the individual, such like religion or nationality, and there is very few research on language per se or a specific reflection on language rights. Generally speaking, language is considered as sub-part of minority rights, and we will later see how. And instead, a broader discussion of justice and freedom of speaking one's preferred language is mainly addressed by the philosophical tradition and social linguistic. This may sound like the legal tradition, actually, apart from some exception, doesn't even mention the word linguistic justice. They mainly focus on language rights. And this may seem the same thing, but we will see moving forward that makes a very important distinction. Since definitions are very important, I would like to give a very brief definition of what linguistic justice are, linguistic rights are. So I took this definition from the Minority Rights Group, and which is an NGO that deals indeed with minority rights. As you can see from the words that I put in bold, the object, so the thing that is protected by this branch of law, is the choice of speaking one's language. And as the other words suggested, individual and collective, the subject of the language rights are either individual or groups of individual. This is very evident that who are the individual part of a group who speaks a different language from the majority of the population. This brings indeed to the concept of minority, and for which the use of language is crucial, since it expresses a very important part of the culture, of the heritage and the identity. So now we understand why we talk about minorities and indigenous people when talking about linguistic rights, because despite the general wording of the definition, traditionally language rights in the legal tradition have been targeted minorities and indigenous people. And who are those? National minorities are understood as people with the same root of the population whose country they found themselves trapped in, like the German-speaking minority in the north of Italy at the border with Austria, or the Catalan in Spain, or the Italian-speaking minority in Slovenia, for instance. The difference with indigenous people, as Will Kimlicka suggested, is mainly the origins and the roots. Indigenous people are perceived as the native population living before someone else occupied their territory. So there's the element of colonization. But speaking about linguistic rights, they are considered more or less equal. I won't discuss this in detail, but these are the legal instruments that are I just wanted to give you an idea of the instruments that can be used to protect language rights. As I said before, linguistic rights or language rights are a part of minority rights. So you won't see a convention or a declaration specifically targeting language. You will see articles within a broader declaration on human rights or civil rights, or entire conventions or documents on the rights of minorities who are mentioned to be yes, national, ethnic, or religion, but also linguistic. And there are also, of course, a specific convention that targeted the right of indigenous people, as you see. They are mainly they are not present in the European Union, but they are valid instrument nonetheless. Generally, countries that have a strong presence of minorities and indigenous people have also domestic instruments to protect them. And the non-discrimination principle is, as a general rule, inserted in the constitutions as well. So now that we have a grasp of the need of language rights, we understand why it is important to vigilate on the actual enforcement and the protection of these rights. Language is used in every aspect of the everyday life, education and health assistance, legal assistance, accessing the public administration. They all need a language. The question now is how well these language rights are enforced. Here I put a series of open questions that are currently being researched in this area, because as you can understand, and as it happens in any other branches of human rights, countries often do not comply with international or domestic rules, or if they do, sometimes the protection that they offer is not enough. So the first question is, are these rights really enforced? And other questions go around the issue of costs and efficiency, because since we are talking about people that are speaking different language, the state has to bear the cost of multilingualism. And are the policies effective? Speaking of education, how you distribute the funding for public education in the minority language. And again, going back to the economic debate, can the state afford translation services? The last question is actually very politically biased, but it does get asked, and it goes at the basic root of minority and linguistic rights. So do we really need them? Because this is a very nationalist argument, but as I said, it happens, it is a question that is asked, and it affects also the policies that are being carried out right now. As I mentioned before, I wanted to talk also about the further developments and the current challenges of linguistic rights. One of the things that I find most fascinating at the moment is what are the subject of linguistic justice? Because, as I said, the subjects are people speaking a different language, but it's evident that in a global world, this category doesn't end with national minorities and indigenous people. There are temporary residents living in a country. I myself am a temporary resident, as you can see you can tell from my accent. There are refugees, asylum seekers, and one of the most important group is long-term residents who come from different countries but have been living in a different country for generations. So is it possible to apply the traditional instrument, the conventions that I showed you before, on these groups? And according to some scholars that mainly come from South Tyrol in Italy and Austria, yes, it is possible. It is a very strong political act, though, and it's so it is a difficult step. There are some problems here again. So, what is the factors that we consider? When does an immigrant population become a minority? Can we consider the Romanian population in Italy, for instance, a minority, or the Turkish population in Germany? What are the factors that determine when a new minority becomes old and so it can benefit from this instrument? This is again an open question, and this is a bit of a spoiler, no country has yet used the traditional conventions on minority rights for new minority, but there's room for improvement. And very, very briefly, I would like also to introduce this last piece of debate, because of course the debate on linguistic justice and language rights doesn't end here. These linguistic rights are also participating in a wider debate on social justice. Here I try to summarize 3 of the major streams. Keep in mind that, as I said before, this approach is sort of tainted or contaminated, let's say, from with other disciplines as well. So here the law interacts with philosophy and social linguistics as well. Which is really good in my opinion, because interdisciplinarity research can give explanation to the complexity of the word which one approach fails to understand. So seeing the intersectional approach also try to consider social conditions such race, class, and religion within the linguistic debate. Then we have the gender and queer perspective that focuses more not on the justice between language, but on the use of language. And finally, the one that is less developed, in my opinion, right now, accessibility of communication for people with disabilities. And these are all the open questions on the matter, and thank you for your attention.